Well, good morning and welcome to Thursday, July 16th, as we continue to plow our way through COVID and the issues that are surrounding that. I hope that you're staying safe and healthy during this time frame. Today on the broadcast, I have a very special guest, Chris Wright, senior pastor over at South Hills Baptist Church. Recently adopted a child. He and his wife, Erin, adopted a child. And I am going to have that conversation with him and share that with you. Adoption, of course, is near and dear to my heart, as I, too, am an adopted individual. And I grew up understanding that and knowing that. And frankly, I'm just fascinated to see how international adoption works and how God works in that process and in the life of a pastor as well. So, as always, our broadcasts are supported by First Baptist Church of Crowley, Texas. If you'd like to support the ministries there, you can go to fbccrowley.org, click on the Give button, and you can give a one-time or a recurring payment. Also, be sure to get your seat reservation in for this week's worship times at 8 and 11, as we are limited to 84 seats per time at this time. So, but without any further ado, here's my conversation with Chris. Hey, Chris, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on here with me and talking about a beautiful, wonderful subject, adoption. But let's start. Introduce yourself to everybody and tell us a little bit about your family and just tell us a little bit about Chris.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me today, Aaron. It's been great to get to know you over the last couple of years and minister down the road from one another and wave at each other as I drive back and forth through there.
That's right,
all the time. But yeah, I'm the lead pastor at South Hills Baptist Church. I've been here 6.5 years, and we've lived in this area a little over 6 years, and we have 3 boys, my wife, Erin, and I, celebrating 15 years of marriage today on the 16th. And
congratulations.
So, thank you. She deserves big congratulations for putting up with me all these years. But we have 3 boys. Cade is 11. He's going into 6th grade. Connor is 7, going into the 2nd grade. And Elliot is 9 months. He'll be 10 months old next week. And he's the one who we just recently adopted from Columbia. And so my wife teaches school there in Burleson, where we live. And so we love the Burleson, Crowley, Fort Worth area and enjoy calling it home.
Does she work in the elk pod or the Spartan pod?
Well, she's kind of a little bit both. Probably she's at Academy at Nola Dunn, and then her other school being a specialist. She's a gifted specialist. So she works at 2 campuses, Monday and Tuesday, usually at one campus, and then Wednesday through Friday at the other. So her primary campus is the Academy at Nola Dunn.
Okay.
She's been there for several years, and that's where our kids go, or did, now that Kate's moving to middle school. And so her other school has changed. They rotate them around sometimes every couple of years. So she's worked at Stribling, she's worked at Fraser, she's worked at Clinkscale, and now at Norwood. So
after making the rounds,
she will have covered 5 of the 10 elementary schools. And so, yeah, it's kind of wild and crazy, but she loves what she does. That's her niche, and that's what she enjoys doing. And she's great at connecting with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade gifted and talented students.
So do you have any insider knowledge as to what BISD is going to do in the fall? Because, I mean, it's like mute on our end. We haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to have school, but, Jimerson's kind of quiet on what's actually.
Yeah. I keep offering for him to call me and get my insight and ask me what I need to do.
Exactly.
The phone hasn't rang yet, but we don't have any insight. We're assuming and hearing that there's probably definitely at least going to be some type of hybrid either or.
Yeah.
Online learning or in-person learning. But as far as the logistics of that, we have no idea.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. I think in some ways, I know they need to make a decision, but our situation's changing so fluidly.
It changes every day.
2 weeks from now, it could be completely different.
Absolutely.
We may be moving in the right direction, and boom, there's another spike. And so,
yeah, I mean, at the time of the airing of this show, it will have finished 2 weeks since the mask mandate. So it's interesting to see. All right, is it helping the numbers? Are things actually going down? And, it just, we don't know. Nobody knows what's going on. So how's church going? How's it going up there?
Church is good, man. Our church family is great. They've been incredibly resilient and have really surprised us in many ways at how they've adapted. From the first Sunday on, it was actually on a Saturday. We had decided we don't need to have church tomorrow.
Yeah.
It was a last minute decision. We had gone back and forth all week long. And I showed up and we had a cameraman and we hooked into Facebook Live. I welcomed everybody, led in a time of prayer for our country and for our city. And then attempted to preach a sermon to a camera in an empty room with one of my deacons running the camera and running the live feed. And so it's evolved from there. We've developed what we feel like is a healthy, meaningful online presence and worship service. And we've tried hard to focus on those who are still worshiping from home, even though we began regathering last month and on June 14th. But it's been good. And we're trying to balance both of those things, let our people know, hey, in-person worship is available and we want you to be here if you can, but there's no real expectation or feeling of guilt. We don't want those who are worshiping at home to feel like second-class church members because
of
their health or their age or their preference at this point. Now, I joke from time to time, those that are sitting at home in their pajamas and are healthy and perfectly capable of being here, but they prefer, church on the couch as opposed to church in person. Then we need to kind of kick them in the pants and encourage a little bit to come on back and join us. But we were able to survey our people and see if we could do it in one service with all the social distancing and mandates. And we felt like we could, and we were ready to go to multiple services as needed. But the first Sunday back definitely exceeded our expectations, and we had a little over 50% of our previous attendance average, pre-COVID attendance. We had a little over 50% that first Sunday back, and it's drifted up and down, back and forth a little bit. But our people have rolled with the punches with the mask mandate and the other aspects that have changed. But we've got a great volunteer team. Our online small groups are meeting on Zoom, kids, students, adults, and many of those have never done any of that kind of stuff before. And now they're thriving. And I'm getting weekly emails from class leaders and what they're covering and what they're talking about and how they're adapting. And so, we, like you, I'm sure we're praying that, we're not losing touch and losing connection.
Absolutely.
Some of ours. But the cool thing is some of those that were a little bit less connected and kind of on the fringe and a little more sporadic in their church engagement, in some ways have gotten more engaged, ironically, because of the online community.
That's wonderful.
Drawn them in. So we're hoping that that'll translate down the road. But we're currently not doing any childcare or children's church or anything.
Yeah, we aren't either.
And so that unfortunately keeps some of our young families away. And we understand that. But we don't want to put volunteers at risk. We don't want to put pressure on anyone. And you ask me next week what my perspective is and when we might start that, it could be totally different than what it is today, because we're just trying to feel it all out.
Absolutely.
And if we don't know what's going on with the school districts, I know we can do our own thing if we choose to.
Sure.
But if we're going to have half our church that's going to be at home learning, then we can't expect them all just all of a sudden start coming back to church and doing what they're doing. But I've been so proud of our church. One example, when this all started, our deacons do great at connecting with families, and they're all assigned families in the church, and they kind of keep touch, and they're kind of a liaison between us, the staff, and them, and check on them and make visits and all of that. Well, we were implementing our deacons to contact all of their families, see if anybody had needs, let us know if they need food, if anybody needs financial help, if anybody needs transportation, or somebody needs to go grocery shopping for someone. And before we could even get that established and even recruit some extra volunteers to help with it, we're getting reports from all these small groups that have already contacted everybody in their group, and they've already met needs, and they've already taken groceries to somebody and assisted his neighbor. And so those are those kind of aha moments that we pastors love. That
absolutely
the church is being the church.
And
shame on me for doubting sometimes. I'm so thankful for that. So that's been encouraging. And so we're just trying to find any victory we can in the midst of this COVID chaos and celebrate it. and celebrate.
Absolutely. This time of year, this moment in history, we just got to find what we can find to praise the Lord about and focus on that.
So, but yeah.
So you have a new blessing in your house in 2020, but walk us back a little bit before that. Um, you've got two boys at the house.
Mm-hmm.
Things are going fine. What prompted you and Erin to want to adopt?
Adoption's always been on her heart. It's always been kind of a background conversation.
Okay.
We knew that when we were dating, we talked about all the things that serious dating couples talk about. What do you expect in a family? And
Sure.
We joked, and she's got one brother, I've got one sister, so we both come from a family of two kids,
Mm-hmm.
and we're good with that. So we're coming from similar family dynamics, and we both wanted kids and excited to have kids. And she always thought, two kids. I kind of always thought two kids. I used to joke with her about, let's have like 8 kids and let's just build a colony. She goes, that sounds great. I'll have the first 2 and you can figure out how to have the other 6.
Exactly.
And so
exactly.
But yeah, I mean, life moved on. We're here living in Burleson, Fort Worth, Crowley area, pastoring here. Things are going great. Things are going well. And there was just a little bit of a burden, and that conversation comes up from time to time. Hey, are we done having kids? Are we wanting to have any more children? And we kind of go back and forth on it. And it just kind of came to a point where Erin was saying, I could see us, adding another child to our family, but I'm not sure that I want to have birth another child.
Yeah, right.
And I said, I totally understand.
No, you don't. You understand nothing about that, right? I don't either.
I understand, but I don't understand. I understand all that I went through as the husband trying to love you and support you with what you went through, that I can only imagine you saying you don't want to have another one.
Exactly.
And I totally supported that. And I said, we both agreed we're both totally happy and content with the 2 children God's blessed us.
Mm-hmm.
Thankful for them. And our family definitely could be complete, but there was just kind of that lingering thought in the back of our mind. So we prayed about it. We talked through it, began to explore some options. And to kind of summarize that part of the story, we began looking at foster to adopt, but we both work full-time outside the home, and with the fluid nature of my job and her job, we just didn't feel comfortable that our family was equipped for kids possibly coming and going.
Right.
It's emotionally, mentally challenging on the entire family.
Sure.
If that's what God called us to, we would do it. But we just didn't feel that was the right fit. And so if we could guarantee that we could get one and keep him or her and eventually go through the process of adoption, and that was a very 80-90% possibility, then we probably would have explored that route. But we began exploring around children's home in the area, talked to a couple agencies in the DFW area, looking at private infant adoption. And everybody was saying minimum of 2 years, maybe longer, and you're looking at $30,000 to $40,000. And even though the agencies, there's agencies right down the road here and there, and we're local, and even if it was a local child, and they said, yeah. And so all that to say, a lot of doors just kind of kept getting closed. And for whatever reason, we just kind of kept hitting roadblocks. And we were thinking, man, okay, maybe we've missed the Lord. We're going to kind of keep pursuing and see what happens. And one of the churches in our area, High Ridge Church out in Benbrook off of 20 and that area, I don't remember what road they're on. We have some friends that go there, and some family members of church members here go there. And they had mentioned to us, hey, talked about adoption, and y'all kind of praying through that.
Right.
My sister's church or my friend's church, they have an adoption and foster care ministry that they've started.
Wow.
And they might have some good resources. So we reached out to them. And they were actually having kind of a adoption preview night and foster care preview night. They had some agencies there. So we went to the preview, kind of got some information, talked to some agencies, kind of explored some possibilities. But when we came home that night, for some reason, it just didn't feel right. We just still kind of felt stuck. And we were almost to the point of saying, okay, maybe it was just a good idea, but it's not what we're supposed to do. We've pursued it. We've gone through every avenue, and we think that this is maybe the end of the road, but we'll kind of keep our hearts and minds open. Well, come to find out, the very next week, like the following Monday night, that same church and same ministry was actually hosting some individuals and representatives from Colombia to discuss international adoption and a newer partnership that's kind of developed between Colombia and the United States. Because we've heard so many stories about certain countries you can adopt from and certain ones you can't.
Right.
How long it takes, and is there a good, or they've stopped doing adoptions from this country, or those type of things. And we never considered international adoption. But as a pastor and a Christian, you'll resonate with this aspect of the story of, okay, yeah, we know they're having that meeting. We don't need to go to that meeting because we weren't considering international adoption. But then, a couple of days later, one of us mentioned to the other, "Are you sure we don't need to go to that meeting just for the information and to see if there's something we're missing, or maybe we need to open our minds to that?" Yeah, but I don't know. That's another Monday night after work, after school. And they were providing childcare. We're going to stick our boys in another night of random childcare with some people they don't know, and they were younger, definitely younger at the time. And we kind of went through the week, and it was just kind of like it was just kind of hanging on back there, and we just couldn't ignore it. And I think we got to the Sunday evening, and we said, okay, that meeting's tomorrow night. Are we going to go, or are we not going to go? And we decided, let's go. We'll go, and that way we can say we did our due diligence. If somebody says you considered it, we'll consider it.
Right.
We knew going in that it's going to tug at our heartstrings, and we just need to ask God for clarity and do it so that we can say we did it, and then we'll navigate from there. Well, of course, we went, and it was meaningful. It was powerful. It was enlightening. Some of the same agencies were there, but there were different representatives because they do the international ones as opposed to the domestic ones. And my wife began having a conversation with some of them, and we dialogued and got some information. And we kind of thought, that was compelling. Well, by the end of the week, one particular agency had followed up, and Aaron had kind of connected with the representative, and we got some information, and we kind of started getting curious, very curious,
right.
And prompted. So fast forward a little bit, and we decided, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what we're called to do. This is scary, but we're going to do it. And it was All God's Children International is the agency.
Wow.
We're still working with them because we get to do follow-up visits for like the first 2.5 years.
Okay.
The adoption process is just continuing on. But
All
they're
right.
in Washington State. And so
Washington State. Okay.
Washington State. So they're on the West Coast. But we loved their vision, their heart, their personal picture. And so we jumped right in. And at the end of May, the last week of May in 2016.
Okay.
So I guess we had been at South Hills 2.5 years. And so we were settling in here good. And May of 16 is when we applied and sent off our initial application. And
to this one company.
To All God's Children International to begin the adoption process as candidates to apply for candidacy to be adopted.
So how long did it take you guys to get to that point? I mean, you started talking to some area adoption agencies, and I mean, how long were y'all in that process? A year before you made that application?
Well, it was kind of through the spring.
Okay.
I want to say it was. I think those meetings were like in April, and so kind of once we left that meeting, within a couple of weeks of meeting,
you'd connected with this ministry.
Connected with the Columbia. Now, the process of starting to look at foster care and things like that, it was kind of off and on, but it was kind of through the spring. So it was probably a 2 or 3 month process.
Okay.
Of really kind of juggling and praying and contemplating, do we want to explore it? And then, we spent a couple of months exploring it.
Sure.
Looking at the different options.
Wow.
Before we officially decided this is what we want to do. This is where we need to adopt from.
Wow.
And this is the agency that we're going to use.
So is this particular agency solely in Colombia, or are they just over a lot of international adoptions?
No, they do work in many different areas, many different countries. And so, but Colombia was kind of their newer project. And so that night at that meeting, we got some information, and they were telling us from the time of application, it takes about 6 months to do all the paperwork, the home studies, the fingerprint, background checks, and all of that to complete the dossier packet.
Mm-hmm.
And so We started in May. We expected by the end of the year, that was kind of our deadline. Now, some people can do it in 4 months if they're
Sure.
if they're really booking it. Some people take longer than 6 months.
Right.
But then they said, you'll do that. It'll take a couple of months to translate, to get approval. And then usually within about 6 months of that, families right now are getting matched with children pretty quick.
Wow.
So we thought year and a half. Now, we knew in the back of our minds, just like, a road construction project or a building project, always delays and changes. And so we were expecting and hoping that it would definitely be, a year and a half through the process.
Right.
So, but one phase of it took a little bit longer, and then translation took a little longer, and then we had to wait for approval.
Wow.
In late spring of 17, almost a year into it, we finally got official approval, or it might have been early summer. I'm trying to remember my dates, but it was almost a year before we finally got official approval. Whereas, hey, your dossier and your family folder is on the desk at the agency in Colombia amongst all the other families. So at any point in time, they could, from now on, they could match you with the child. And so once they match you with the child, it'll be a couple of month process. If you approve and they approve and everything gets done, and it takes a couple of months to go travel, get your child, you'll probably be gone 3 weeks in the country. And so, we were hoping a year and a half. Well, things just kind of kept getting delayed, and that extra 6 months passed, and check-ins and phone calls, and things have slowed down a little bit. It's probably at least 6 to 12 months from now.
Wow.
It's already been that. So home study expires, fingerprints expire, background checks expire, things like that. So then we're just doing red tape and more paperwork, and we're doing fundraisers. We were trying to raise.
So you're on this emotional roller coaster now.
Right.
I mean, they tell you 6 months for, the dossier to get all fixed, and then that's a year.
Yep.
And then, now things are slowing down. How are you and Aaron, how are you, what are you thinking and feeling? I mean, it's got to be exhausting physically, emotionally, and as well as mentally and other things. I mean, how were you guys through that time?
It was a struggle. I mean, we were able to keep our faith, and deep down at the core, we knew we were doing what God was calling us to do. But as you get closer to the surface, you have are we sure we want to do this? Are we going to go through with this? What's it going to take? Because in the midst of all that, then we're starting to raise funds and do fundraisers and send out letters and seek donations, because it's a $40,000 process. And we knew that, okay, we don't have $40,000. So God, you're going to have to provide.
Mm-hmm.
For us. And we'll sacrifice what we need to sacrifice. And if we need to take out loans or drain our savings, we'll do what we do. But we were trying to be responsible. So there was this anticipation and excitement of wondering how long it's going to be, with the exhaustion of a part-time job of trying to plan fundraisers and send coordinate with people and keep track of everything that's happening. And so it was a very, very weary up and down roller coaster. And family members, church members were phenomenal, asking and praying, hey, we're praying. Hey, have you heard anything? Have you gotten updates? And it's like they were so good, and people were so loving and so caring that, you get 2 years into this waiting process. And so it was 3.5 years from the application, end of May of 16, till we got the call that we've been matched with our son on December the 16th, 2019.
Wow.
So 3.5 years. And we just, we got towards the end, and we were just tired, and kind of got to the point of, okay, we've done everything we can do. Let's just put it in God's hands. And
it was a year after that before you got him.
So, well, no, we got matched in December, and we got him in February.
Oh, matched in December of 19. Okay.
19 in February of 20, just a few months ago.
Yeah. I mean, I knew you didn't get him till just a few months ago.
Yeah. So all that to say, it was exhausting. And so deep down, we had our faith, and we were reminded of that rock solid core faith. We go through trials in life, we go through difficulties and struggles, and we may have these moments of doubting God, or wondering if we've done something wrong, and
Is he closing the door on this?
Are we being punished for some
Wow.
reason? Have we totally missed this?
Right.
Or surely some point Columbia is not going to shut down their program like somebody else did, and this is all going to be wasted. And then we have to have those conversations. Say, what if this doesn't go through? Are we going to try to have another kid? Are we going to try to start the adoption process over, or are we just going to be a family of 4 with the 2 boys? And so that was all over the map. And there were times where we were stable and good, and we're just waiting it out. And there's times where we were just all but unraveled and weary in our faith and trying to figure that out. But the church members, the family members, so eager, so excited, so supportive. Like every single week, or every time we talk to them on the phone, family members, well, have you heard anything about the adoption? Or can you give us an update on the adoption? And it's like we felt bad because we just constantly disappointing everybody. Like, no, we had another phone call and we're still not anywhere close. And the hard part was not knowing. It's not like they have a waiting list and there's 22 people and we're like number 7. And then when the next one gets adopted, we move up to number 6. It's a very abstract process. So someone that's been waiting 3 months could get matched, and someone waiting 3 years is still waiting. It just depends on the profile of the family, the profile of the child, and the committee that makes those decisions in determining which child fits best with which family. And there's age ramifications, there's special needs, and all these children were classified as special needs.
Wow.
And so we had to designate in the process what special needs we felt we were able to accommodate and we wanted to accept, and which ones we didn't.
Which ones could you handle and which ones were you not prepared to handle?
And that was hard for us because we said, if we birthed a child and they had some special need or defect,
you just deal with it.
We're going to accept it.
Sure.
But we have a choice here. And so it's almost like it puts you in this uncomfortable position. And
how do you make that choice?
Yeah, I'll tell you, our agency was great, and they walked us through it and said this part, and they prepared us, and they said, here's going to be the hardest part of this whole process. Is you're going to have to complete your special needs checklist, and there's going to be a lot of conditions on there that you don't want or you don't feel equipped to handle, and you have to prayerfully consider what you say yes to and what you say no to. Wow. And when you birth a child, conceive a child, birth a child, you don't get a choice. It is what it is.
Sure.
But in this situation, you do get a choice. And you need to prayerfully consider, what God wants for you. And it's okay to say no. But every time you would check a box that said no to a particular condition, that we didn't feel comfortable with, then in some ways we felt like we were rejecting a child. And
how could you not? I mean,
it wasn't like, okay, here's child number 47. This male or female.
They didn't give you a picture and a name to go along with that.
No, you've just got to look at conditions. You've just got pages of.
But you had to be thinking through that. It's like, okay,
you had to be thinking that okay, and we knew that that whatever conditions we choose could be exactly the same as what other families choose, or they could be dramatically different. And a family that gets matched in 2 months could have been a condition or a child of a certain age that was out of our age range. So either children were getting matched out of our age range or outside of our special needs checklist, I guess you could say. Yeah. But then there were kids that were getting matched that we thought or felt like were within both of those parameters. You wonder, okay, well, why did they get the child and we didn't? And
right.
It's like anything else in life. God's never late. He's never early. He's always right on time. And so, but it's his time is rarely ever our time.
Speaking of timeline, I was there the day that you were scrambling because the one timeline you were given got changed on you. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So that's one of those things.
Right in the middle of upward season.
You wait 3.5 years. You're impatient. You're frustrated. You're ready to throw your hands up and say, what are we even doing? And then when you get the call and things start happening, it starts moving at breakneck speed, and then you start feeling like a hypocrite, like slow down. Now, for once, we're saying slow down. We've been saying speed up, speed up, speed up for 3.5 years.
Yeah. Now wait.
Slow down. Wait, we're not ready. Like God, we're ready. It's 3.5 years. We're ready.
Yeah, but I'm not ready.
Wait, God, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Feel like a total hypocrite. Absolute hypocrite. But here's how it went down. We got a phone call on December 16th that we had been matched with a child. They sent us the information. It was within our parameters. We had like 24 or 48 hours to complete some paperwork. We could talk to a doctor, get whatever information they had. They tried to translate for us. So we're getting foreign documents, translated documents. We're getting pictures. We're getting videos, all of that kind of stuff. Precious little boy. And so we accept. We're moving forward. We're processing. And they said, probably 2 months. So we're thinking mid-February. We're thinking, February 16th. We're thinking around that. It maybe even delayed a week, the last week of February.
Yeah.
So we're working towards that timeline, lining up grandparents to come stay with the boys because they weren't allowed to go with us.
Sure.
So we had to leave them behind. So we had both sets of grandparents, one for shift 1 and one for shift 2, apart. And I'm working things out at church, getting supply preachers. We're working through programs, ministries, working with our incredible staff who was adapting and trying to make everything happen. And so we're working through that, and then we're kind of getting through the process, and we get into January, and we're still thinking it's going to be mid-February, and we get towards the end of January, and they call and say, hey, we might want you to leave during this week. And we said, okay, if we absolutely have to, we'll do it. But can we wait till either the end of that week or the following week? Because our oldest one is in 5th grade. He had his end of 5th grade field trip, 3 nights overnight at Sky Ranch. We'd already paid for him and I to go. That was going to be the last hurrah. We've been looking forward to it for years. We love that our school does that. And we were like, we've got this big trip, and I know we've been waiting on this adoption forever. But if it's not going to, we've waited this long.
We're ready, Lord. We're ready, Lord. We're not ready, Lord. We're not.
A week could make a difference. And they said, okay, that's fine. We'll make that happen. Well, then a few days or a week later, it was a Thursday morning. They called my wife at school, and she answered and called me and said, listen, they want us to leave next week. There's a virus, some type of respiratory virus that's starting to spread through the orphanage, and they want all the kids that have been matched, if there's a way they can expedite the process and get them out to protect them, then we want to. Because Bogota, Colombia, the capital of Colombia, is where the orphanage is in Colombia that we're adopting from, and it's 8,000 feet above sea level. So it's higher than the mile-high city of Denver, and so the high altitude respiratory viruses are just rampant, especially when you're in an orphanage facility full of children and workers and
right.
And so it's even more prevalent there. We said, okay, whatever. I'm going to have to miss this trip, but there's plenty of other dads and parents that are going. We're totally comfortable with that. But Cade's going to be sad. I'm going to be sad.
Sure.
And so Erin pulled him out of, went and grabbed him down the hall. She teaches at his school, and told him, and he was bummed. And we were already working on a couple of other dads, like, hey, will you be Cade's kind of chaperone this week? And we already had that lined up. And so we were going to be leaving on like February the 5th or something like that, which is a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I think it was a Wednesday. And not 30 minutes after, and we'd already changed everything at church. I said, okay, listen, I'm going to be here this Sunday, guys, and then I'm gone. We're moving up the timeline. I'm going to put this sermon aside that I was going to preach. I'm going to preach something different, more along the lines of adoption and sharing our story and recapping where we are and kind of rallying our church around that. We changed the order of worship. We changed everything. And then she calls me like 30 minutes later and said, Chris, you're not going to believe this. They called me again and said, we're leaving on Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
Like 72 hours from now.
Oh
Sunday.
my gosh.
I said, that's Super Bowl Sunday.
Come on, Chris, really?
Yeah, no. I was like, well, I guess the airport won't be busy because everybody will be at Super Bowl parties. Nobody's on Super Bowl Sunday. And we were like, oh my gosh. So I guess not only am I preaching something different, I may not be preaching at all because I don't know what time we're leaving on Sunday.
Right.
I thought, doesn't matter what time we're leaving on Sunday. I can't do do that and leave her at home to pack for Columbia. And then no. So all that to say, it was a whirlwind. And I was walking out the door to go to a Tarrant Baptist Association team meeting with you and several other pastors. And I'm sure I was a hot mess when I got there, was pretty frazzled, and then had to step out and take a couple of phone calls during that lunch. But we were scrambling in that 72-hour period. And so it was nerves, it was fear, it was excitement, it was adrenaline. It was this euphoria that, I really can't explain. It was different than the whole, it's time to go to the hospital and have our son. That's its own excitement, but that's what it was like. So all this stuff happening, my in-laws were scheduled to keep the boys the first week and a half. They were actually out of town visiting her brother in Houston. So they immediately left and came back home so they could make preparations to take care of the boys. So, it flipped all kinds of stuff upside down after 3.5 years of just like
agonizingly waiting.
Yeah, we got phone calls on top of phone calls and frantic, and she didn't have her lesson plans taken care of and all of that kind of stuff. So
you get to Columbia. You've seen pictures, but nothing's like real life.
Right.
So you get to Columbia, you and your wife get to hold Elliot. Describe that moment if you can.
Yeah. So how it worked, we flew out on a Sunday. We flew Sunday evening. We were actually in the airport eating dinner when the Super Bowl was kicking off on the TV. And then on the other TV was all the news stations with this China coronavirus that was sweeping the nation. We had masks with us in our bag. We ended up not wearing them, but we were a little more cautious than normal, trying to figure out what's going on in the world. We get on the plane, we fly, we arrive in Columbia at like 12:30 a.m. in the middle of the night. And Aaron had said, when we fly into Columbia, I don't want to fly in at night. I mean, goodness, it's Columbia. It's a foreign country. I'd rather fly in during the daytime. So in the midst of all this, we end up flying in the middle of the night. So we get our bags.
Right, given everything else that's been going on.
Trying to get through customs. The lady didn't speak English, and our broken Spanish was minimal. And you're trying to talk about legal documents. You're not just asking where the bathroom is. Or where to get a piece of bread. I could communicate that in Spanish, but so our phones, we had to switch the roaming data something to get the international. Our phone translator, Google Translate, wasn't working. So 2 or 3 officials later, we show the paperwork we need. We get through customs. We're trying to find the driver who's going to take us to the hotel, and all these people are vying to get us to get into their cab and their car. It was a little bit eerie, and we find our guy, who's very nice, very kind, but doesn't speak any English. And so he drives us through Columbia, and we're seeing it in the middle of the night. And we get into our hotel room about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And so it was a whirlwind. So Monday morning, we got up and had an appointment at the orphanage. So we go to the orphanage for a series of meetings and interviews, and we get all the final information and the documentation on our son. But we don't get to see him. We don't get to see him, touch him, or anything. So we're sitting here, and there's some glass windows, and we see this room over here that's full of cribs, and we see another room, and we see some kids playing out here in the courtyard. It's a surreal moment that 3.5 years, and here we are, and we're in this room meeting with them, and we know that our son, who's fixing to join our family forever, is possibly right down the hall.
Yeah.
We can't see him. We want to see him.
Oh my gosh.
So it was so exciting, but yet emotionally stressful.
Sure.
And so we did all the meetings and handled that. And then on Tuesday, the very next day, we went back to the orphanage. So Monday, we spent the time walking around the kind of the downtown area where our hotel is, kind of getting the lay of the land and finding out where the stores are and the restaurants are and how to get back and forth between everything. And so then on Tuesday, we went to meet our son and to take possession of him. So we're there, and we have some meetings, and we get to go through another series of meetings, and then we meet with the director of the orphanage. And so she's kind of the matriarch and the grandma of all of these kids and all of these workers, and this is her pride and joy. So it was a sweet, sweet moment. And so we're in this room and waiting, and they're going to get him, and there's a professional photographer taking pictures, and there's people waiting with us. And so they're going to say, you wait here, we're going to go get him. He's on the other end of the orphanage. And we're waiting, and it was probably 15 minutes. And it felt like 4 hours. I mean, we're just chomping at the bit, and we hear them, and we hear all the oohs and the ahs and the him coming down the hall. And it was like this parade, like
Oh my goodness.
Was celebrating the sweet little boy that the director of the orphanage, she called him the prince of orphanage, the most beautiful baby in the whole orphanage. She kept saying, he is our prince. You're getting to take our prince. And we've got all kinds of videos and pictures, and they walked in the room with him, and our whole world just changed. Our whole world just absolutely changed. I can relive the moment that I was in the delivery room with both of my biological boys, and being in the room in that moment when he came in the room, and that 4-month-old little boy, they handed him to us for the first time. The emotion, the joy, every single moment of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
3.5 years just disappeared in that moment.
Oh, wow.
And we just felt this peace.
Yeah.
This joy, this relief, this, oh my, thank you, Lord. We don't even deserve this incredible blessing of getting to welcome this boy to our family. And we held him, and we kissed him, and we talked to him, and that whole orphanage celebrated with us on our way out that day. And we left on that Tuesday afternoon with our son and went back.
But not the country.
In another country, yeah.
No, you couldn't leave the country yet.
Leave the country. We didn't legally have him. I mean, we signed some paperwork that we were taking care of him and taking responsibility. And so they required a minimum of a 3-day bonding period. It's longer if the kid is older. If we've gotten a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, an 8-year-old, the required bonding time before they do basically an exit interview at the orphanage would have been longer. So we had a 3-day required bonding period. So those next 3 days, we just went back to the hotel and lived in the hotel with our son and bonded with him and got to know him. And, we had to go a couple of places a couple of times to do some paperwork or fill out some forms or go to the notary. And the team in country for our adoption agency was phenomenal. They told us where to be in the lobby at this time, and they would pick us up. A driver would take us where we go. We needed more formula. All we had to do is make a phone call. They'd have it delivered to the front desk. And
Nice.
And so it was wonderful. There was a couple of other adoptive families that were staying in the same hotel that were adopting too. And so we had to share a journey with them.
Yeah.
And a Finnish couple from Finland was there and adopting a little girl the same age that she and our son Elliot shared beds next to each other for a while there. And so it was pretty incredible to be there during that time. And so it happened so fast. And then on Friday of that week, so Thursday we get the call, we're leaving on Sunday, everything's frantic. We fly out Sunday, Monday and Tuesday are kind of crazy. Wednesday, Thursday, we kind of catch our breath. And then Friday, we go back to the orphanage. And on Friday, we sign papers. Basically, the orphanage releases him into our care completely. And it was a semi-legal document, but he was not officially ours. And so, but we had responsibility, and there was a paper that we had to carry with us everywhere we went. So if we got stopped or we got questioned, that we legally have temporary guardian. Basically, it was a temporary guardianship, basically, is the best way I knew how to understand it. And so we did all that on Friday. And so they did the 3-day waiting and did it on Friday. We thought we were going to wait till Monday, which would have just been extra time in country waiting. But thankfully, God worked it out, and he was punctual in what he was doing. So Friday, we signed those papers, and then we were going to travel to another city, a small town, a couple of hours away, because there's a judge in that city that will help expedite the process.
Okay.
But you get out of the big city of millions of people.
Sure.
You can kind of get through the legal process a little quicker. So early Saturday morning, we left and we traveled down the mountain several thousand feet in altitude and went to this remote resort and stayed there over the weekend and just got to bond with our child and spend time together. We didn't have any meetings, didn't have anywhere to go. We were able just kind of to explore or to swim or rest or whatever. So we did that over the weekend, expecting to go to court probably on Wednesday or Thursday. And then Monday evening, while we were sitting at dinner, we get a call saying the driver's going to be there at 6:30 tomorrow morning to take you into town for court. And so we were having court on Tuesday. So the first Tuesday we were there, we took possession of Elliot. The next Tuesday, 1 week later, we were at court at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And by mid-morning had finalized the adoption in Colombia, and he officially became ours.
Wow.
Tuesday, February the 11th, is the official day that he came into our family. And we celebrated that. We drove back into town and immediately went to the notary office, immediately went to the passport office and began processing. At that point, we needed a passport and we needed a visa for him to travel home.
Yeah.
The only two things we needed before we could leave the country.
Okay.
We did the passport on Tuesday afternoon. We picked it up on Wednesday morning. They immediately began applying for an appointment at the embassy for the visa at the U.S. Embassy in Colombia. And they said, usually it takes a couple of days, but today's Wednesday. They don't do appointments on Fridays. So you'll either get one for Thursday or you'll have to wait through the weekend until Monday.
Wow.
We were like, oh, please, please. We started calling the prayer warriors and texting people saying, please pray that we can get an appointment on Thursday so that we can come home. Friday, which was Valentine's Day, actually my 40th birthday.
Wow.
And I had joked with my church leading up to that I was just going to disappear for the weekend, take the weekend off, go hide out in a cabin somewhere and pout for a little while about turning 40 and then enjoy the rest of my week.
Yeah. Little did you know.
Little did I know, God said, I'm going to take you away for the weekend, but I'm going to take you to a whole nother country.
Yeah.
And you're going to come home with an infant for your birthday. And so long story short, Thursday came and we didn't have an appointment. And so Thursday afternoon, we checked with them and said, we're assuming it's going to be Monday. Do we have an appointment scheduled yet? And the lady that's helping us said, no, actually you have an appointment at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning on Friday morning at the embassy.
That they're not open. The day they're not open.
Y'all told us they don't do appointments on Fridays. And she goes, yeah, they don't. But you have an appointment at the embassy at 7 o'clock on Friday morning.
Just don't question it.
Yeah, don't question it. And I had been bargaining with them because they knew it was my birthday. I was like, surely you know somebody. You can call him. You've got this American guy. He turns 40 on Valentine's Day. He wants to go home for his birthday. He doesn't want to be here for the weekend and all of that. And they wanted us to stay because they wanted to take us out and celebrate my birthday and all that kind of stuff. I said, that would be fun and unique. But we want to get home to our family.
I'd rather be at home. Thanks. Yeah.
And so we, it's one of 100 just kind of God stories, how he worked it out. Like they don't do appointments on Fridays. They've only had a couple of instances where they've even had families get an appointment on Friday. And then even when we went on Friday, they said almost always you can get it later that day, but sometimes it takes a day, which would be Monday. So even when we went Friday morning, we didn't know when we could leave. And so they called, we did that. We went back and we're just waiting. Friday afternoon, right after lunch, they call us and say, we'll meet you in the lobby in 30 minutes. We're going to pick up your visa. And so we went, picked up the visa, came back. We got the instructions on what to do with it and who to give it to and not to bend it and all these crazy rules and details. And so what we did was we came back to the hotel. She immediately started packing up everything. And I got online and got on the phone with our travel agency. And by 4 or 5 o'clock that afternoon, we had tickets to fly home that night.
Oh, wow.
A direct flight overnight. And so we went and had an early Valentine's dinner at this restaurant, went back to the hotel, They picked us up, drove us to the airport, dropped us off, and we boarded the plane in Colombia a little bit before midnight and flew overnight. And we walked in our front door in Burleson on Saturday morning, the 15th at 6:45 a.m. Less than 2 weeks from when we left.
So fast forward 5 months to the day. Today's the 15th.
Yes.
How's it been?
Oh, it's been incredible. The world's been chaotic and our world shut down with COVID. We came back. I took 2 more weeks off to help the family bond. Both sets of grandparents were home, were there. And then the boys and our 2 older boys have just been enamored with him and have loved him and cared for him and fought over getting to play with him or hold him or sit with him and all of that. But they're not fighting over wanting to change diapers, though.
No.
Not at all.
No.
Or pick up his toys or clean up.
No.
Clean up things, but they just want to play with him. And when he starts fussing, calling for mama to come take him. But no, they absolutely love him. And she was on maternity leave she was going to get a full 12 weeks, so she wasn't going to have to go back. She wasn't going to have to go back until like end of April, first part of May.
Yeah, little did you know.
Finish out the school year. So we were home for 2 weeks, and so we felt like 2 weeks in Colombia was kind of like a quarantine because it was just us and nowhere to go and nothing to do.
Right.
We came home for another 2 weeks, and that's basically what we did. We settled in and took the boys back and forth to school and just spent time bonding at home. And then I came back to work and came back to the office for a week or 2 weeks, and then everything shut down. And we had to go to online only church. I think the last Sunday we met in person, she was here and brought Elliot with her, but stayed back in the nursery with him in the child care area. So some people got to see him coming or going, or went back there to see him. It might have been 2 Sundays. It was either 1 Sunday or 2 Sundays. But since then, I mean, she's hardly seen people from the church, and there's so many people that have yet to meet Elliot, and he's twice the size and twice the age he was at 4.5 months. But it's been good. The bonding time has been incredible. People have said, wow, it's amazing how God worked that out. If you had been a little bit later going to Colombia, who knows if you'd have gotten stuck there, or if you would have been almost ready to travel and they shut down the country and brought things to a halt, and your son is there and you're here and you can't get to him.
Anything could have happened.
Anything could have happened. So again, we saw God's timing in all of this, his faithfulness. We never doubted it in the depths of our soul, our faith. But like I said earlier, those surface level emotions and feelings can really deceive you and sometimes try to destroy you. But we kept the faith. We had an amazing group of people. We would get comments from people, hey, we're praying for you, this and that. We had our church family is wonderful. We had a group of friends in our church that went together, and they basically customized and built care packages for our 2 boys back home.
Oh, wow.
Had a care package, individually had a care package to open every single day that we were gone.
Oh my gosh. That's tremendous.
We weren't gone 20-something days, but so everything here, I mean, yes, we missed our family and we missed our boys, but they were so well taken care of and loved and spoiled by the grandparents and church members, and they've done the same thing when we got back. But it's definitely been completely different than what we thought. And even though Erin didn't get the time that she thought she would get with just her and Elliot on this maternity leave, at school and I'm at work, we've all been together as a family through the whole quarantine and working from home.
Yeah.
So she's been off since the end of January, and it's been fun. It's been a challenge, but man, God's been so good, and we've seen his hand in so many ways along there. And what I hear so many people say, how amazing is it that y'all are getting such a deep, lengthy bonding time? Yeah. I'll tell you, it's crazy. Like within a couple of days of getting him, we didn't have a lot of the resistance or the stranger danger that we thought we would have. He literally was just as easygoing and chill of a baby as you could get. And the way he interacted with us and has ever since, you'd have never known he was without us.
That's great.
And it was, I think it was it last week or 2 weeks ago? I have to look at my calendar. I calculated up the number of days because we got him a little over 4 months old. He'll be 10 months old next week. I think next week on the 22nd, so next Wednesday. He'll be 10 months old. And we celebrated, I think it was either I think it was 2 weeks ago. On Thursday, we celebrated the fact that he had been with us more than he had been without us.
Yeah.
Across that threshold of 130 something, 140 days.
Yep.
And so that was really kind of a cool thing. Like, he's been with us more than he's been away from us. And I mean, we love him, and everybody loves him, and our boys love him. It's helped us fall more in love with the boys that we have, and we couldn't be any more blessed and thankful for what God's done and the way he's provided through this whole process. I could sit here and tell you hundreds of stories and little milestones and markers along the way that have affirmed what we've called to do. And it's reminded me of the picture of the gospel and what it means to be accepted and to be loved and to be welcomed. And we don't view ourselves as rescuers, as we're the ones who went and rescued him, and that he's blessed that we got to go rescue him from the orphanage and bring him home. God has done such a work in our hearts that we feel like we're the ones that have been rescued.
Yeah.
And Elliot has brought a whole new perspective on life to us and to our family. And we're so grateful that God's entrusted us with these three boys, and we're going to do everything we can to raise them in the ways of the Lord and see them come to know Christ and follow Christ. And we pray every day for that.
Absolutely.
We're so thankful to have them and have gone through this journey. And now we're doing follow-up visits. And I mean, it's been great. He's crawling, army crawling. He's not up on his knees, but he's pulling up on stuff. And so nothing in the house is safe.
Nope.
Lots more.
So it begins.
Falling down, bumping his head. And, it's like as parents, you get this temporary amnesia, I think. God, it's been 5-6 years. Connor's 7.5 now. It's been over 6 years since we've dealt with something like this.
Sure.
You temporarily forget like how many things you have to put up and how much.
Oh yeah.
How many things you have to say.
I got to safety patrol everything 18 inches and down.
Right. And how many diapers you have to buy, and how quickly those bottles, those cans of formula disappear.
Oh my gosh.
And all the laundry and everything else.
Oh yeah.
And it's been one big party at our house, and we're loving it, living it up. And
good.
Incredible blessing.
Chris, thank you for sharing your story and the journey of God just providing you guys with Elliot. I thank you for taking the time and sharing that with us today.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be here. And I want to encourage you, Aaron. I know you, and I know any of you that are watching. One of my favorite little, it's a brief story that tells, happened way in the very beginning. End of May of 2016, we started the adoption process officially. So we were sharing that news with family and friends, and we had done a photo shoot with our family with a globe and highlighting Columbia and waiting on another child, and kind of made a big deal out of it. And I was having lunch. It was probably within a month of when we started the process. I was having lunch with a pastor friend of mine who's a good friend and has been for years. And we were sitting there at lunch, and we were at Panera Bread up here at Hewlin and 20. And we were just having our conversation. He was just kind of asking me questions, kind of like you, what prompted y'all to adopt, and what's next, and what are y'all going to do, and what can you expect? And I'll be honest, I was at the point where if I wouldn't have felt confident and peace and moving forward in faith and knowing that's what we were supposed to do, we wouldn't have done it. But yet I feel like maybe my wife, Erin, had a little bit more confidence in it than I did. It's that faith over fear. Like I knew what we were supposed to do. Fear on the surface and all this doubt and uncertainty that was still just kind of lingering. And, I just continued to ask God to give me peace about this as we move through this, because this is a brand new adventure that we know nothing about. And we're sitting there having lunch, and about 2/3 of the way through our lunch, this lady comes walking by, and she stops and kind of smiles and says hi. And we said, hi, how are you? And she goes, this may sound odd. You don't know me. I don't know you. But I just happened to overhear part of your conversation. And I
Oh,
think the fact that you and your wife, what you're doing is incredible and wonderful. And I commend you. And that inspires me. And I hope this isn't awkward. But I want to give you this.
oh, wow.
She handed me a check for $200.
Wow.
And it was blank. My name wasn't on it. She goes, I don't even know your name. You can fill in your name. But I just wanted to encourage you and affirm you
Wow.
in what you're doing. And I believe you're doing something great. And my friend across the table was just like, wow. And then he just kind of took a deep breath and smiled and said, you're doing the right thing.
God's saying, Chris, I need you to catch up with Aaron. So here you go.
Yeah. Here we go. That's it. So I went home and I shared that with Aaron, and we were blown away, and I was in tears. And, I tried to commit to the Lord that I wouldn't doubt him at any point.
Sure.
I don't know if 100% followed through on that.
Right.
But it was little things like that. And I could tell other stories, and I won't, but there are other stories like that.
Yeah.
People, not necessarily total strangers, but there are people who have just affirmed and encouraged us along the way at just the right time.
Yeah.
When we needed it, didn't know we needed it, when we didn't expect it. And so to think that this total stranger would just write a check and hand it to me.
It's crazy.
Was crazy.
Wow.
And that's the life of faith that we live, and God's called us to live in faith. And so if God's calling you to do something, do it and have faith. Right. And no matter what it costs, or if you don't know what it's going to cost,
right,
just follow and just say yes.
Absolutely.
I've told my church many a times, and I think it was Ed Stetzer who I heard it from in a sermon years ago. Just put your yes on the table and let God put it on the map. And he has time and time again. And he put us on the map here in Southwest Fort Worth, and he put you on the map here in Crowley and Southwest Fort Worth. And I'm grateful for that. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship, your encouragement. And I hope that for many, many years, we get to share ministry alongside each other.
Absolutely. That's the plan.
So, well, thanks, Aaron. I appreciate you and for what you're doing, and appreciate your church and the way y'all are reaching people in Crowley for the gospel.
Absolutely. You're doing a fine job where you are too, and God bless.
Well, thank you so much.
We'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.